I've always thought that the FG2 Honda Civic Si looked really sleek and really smooth. I've heard many stories about this car and that it was really fun to drive. It can get you from point A to point B with a little fun in between. Although I've never driven one, I was lucky enough to have a chance to drive this car today thanks to my friend Jimmy. Let's go and take this car out for a spin, see what all this fun is about. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Edges in the 30K Media. Thank you for coming by and tuning in. Right behind me I have a 2009 Honda Civic Si FG2. And this car is one of the classic Honda Si cars. Back in the day I've always wanted a Honda Civic Si. Being in high school we always lusted after the EM1, EM2, FG2. This happens to be the 2009 model. It's a second generation, so it comes with about 197 horsepower and about 139 feet-pounds of torque. This is the K-Series engine, which I think is one of Honda's best engines. It's the K20Z3 engine with made it up to a 6-speed manual transmission with a helical limited slip. And what's good about this car is that when it came out in the day, it came out with Honda's new IV Tech. And not to get into too much detail about IV Tech, but it's the cam low profile that changes, so you get low power, high power, and you get performance at when needed, and you get good gas mileage in the city. But right off the bat, we'll just take a look at the car. It does look amazing in this like dark graphite gray color. The wheel setup is about tire setup about 215 size tires, 17 by 8.5. So tires are pretty big. It has a lot of grip going to the corners. Being that this car does have an LSD, which is quite different than my RSX Type S that doesn't have when I had put it in. But nevertheless, this car's been great. I think it looks great in person. It's hard to find one that's bone stock these days, like this car. They've all been modified. But a couple of issues that I noticed by doing some research and watching around the forums was that it does have some clear coat fade, and it is notorious for that third gear grind. Luckily enough, this car doesn't have any of those issues. But we'll take a look around the car and then get into more detail later on. But yeah, it's been amazing. Looks great in person. What's surprisingly about this car is that I saw that it was manufactured in Ontario, Canada, and also São Paulo, Brazil. So I guess Honda at that time wanted to manufacture, outsource, production to different countries, which it's good or bad. It saves costs and whatnot, but I still think cars made in Japan in the homeland is probably a little more high-end in terms of like craftsmanship, quality control. But nevertheless, if you take care of the car, I think it'll take care of you. So with that being said, thank you to my buddy Jimmy for lending me the car today to drive, and hope you guys all like this car. I think it's a great car for those that are trying to get from point A to point B. It does shift really smooth. Transmission is really good, and it's a good entry-level car, or a car to have like as a daily driver, or just a car to just enjoy, on the weekends. It is comfortable enough to take around. It's not too stiff in terms of suspension. But with that being said, let's take a look at that interior and see what the seats are like, driving positions like, and then we'll go for a quick tour later on, a quick drive. So please post your comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, guys. And then yeah, let's hop onto the interior. All right, so we're back in the Honda Civic Si interior, and right off the bat, I feel like these seats hug me really well. They're not super stiff because they're made out of cloth material, and they don't get too hot in the sun. And I love the red badging, the SI badging on the, on the back of the seat. It looks really good. And right off the bat, the shifting feel is really amazing. It's right in my hand, and the position is really well laid out. And I like how in this generation FG2, they have the RPM gauge right in front of me, and then right above me, they separated that with the LCD screen for the speedometer. So not like a lot of cars these days where I have like the RPM gauge to the left and then the speedometer gauge to the right. So Honda kind of separated it up. So I think it's because it's easier to see and look at the road rather than kind of look down and up and down and up. So I think that's pretty cool. Also, another thing was that I noticed that the shifter feel is really good stock. It's short enough that you don't really need to get a short shifter in this car. I think the SI trim is like one of Honda's like sportiest trims, and I think it feels really good in the hand, which we'll take a car for a drive later on. Floor mats are really nice. You have that SI badging right down here. It's not too standing, like out in your face kind of thing. I think it's very subtle. I really like how Honda styled the interior of this car. This car does come to VSA. As you look to the left over here, you have the mirror gauge, the adjusted mirrors, the VSA for vehicle stability assist for like cornering assistance when you're driving. Something to keep in mind is that the GPS satellite OEM dash unit here, it actually stopped working, so you can't really get GPS or anything like that. But it's at some point, I think it's better to get an aftermarket radio player in this thing. But in any case, you look up here, you have the moonroof right up here. It's really nice and well laid out. In the SI model, it does come in a moonroof. Something else to keep in mind is that this e-brake is still cable operated. In the newer Civic, I know that's like, I had a Civic before, a 2018 model, which was electronic, but this is cable, so it's still analog. I like that. I'm a fan of analog. You have the hazard lights right over here, knob controls, very basic functionality. It works really well. Back seats has a lot of room, a lot of cushion right back there, and you have the trunk, which has a lot of space. So if you put the seats down, you have a lot of trunk space to fit a lot of stuff in there. And mirrors are actually they can be adjusted automatically. You have the set and reset gauges here, the kilometers or miles per hour right over here. I love the interior. I mean, overall, it looks really, really good in the hand. Bluetooth system, I don't think it works really well. You hear a lot of static noise when you're driving, but nevertheless, you'd buy this car for performance. You're not gonna buy it for like a Bluetooth, system. But I love the car, and I'm excited to take it for a drive. So why don't we take it for a little spin around and see how it feels. All right, guys, so we're back in the Honda Civic Si. This is a 2009 model FG2 with a 6-speed transmission with LSD and a K20Z3 K-Series engine. So right off the bat, first impressions, a lot different than my stock RXX. It shifts really smooth, and it actually is really, really smooth. It's really close to my S2000 feel from my stock S2000 about a couple years ago that I've owned. Right off the bat, like, the engine does feel really solid. Like the K-Series engine, it sounds somewhat similar to my RSX, except for the pedal feel is there. It has the racing pedals, so you get a little bit more. I guess it's a little slippery in the shoe, but it's a lot easier to like heel toe versus like the rubber feel that I have to like kind of like ease off a little bit before I can heel toe. But this car, it's super easy to heel toe. I love the shifter in this car. It's really smooth, as I mentioned earlier. The throws are actually really short. You actually don't need to get a short shifter in this car at all. But I've read on the forums a couple times that people that have had this car, especially in the first generation FG1, there's the notorious third gear grind. I haven't had that issue yet that I've been driving, but we're just gonna take it around some corners and maybe let you guys get a feel of what the car is like. I love the feel. I love the layout of this car. There aren't any blind spots. I can do like blind spot lane changes really easily. The speedometer gauge and the RPM gauge, it comes in red, I guess, in the SI model, versus like the non-SI is more of like a white color. But we're just gonna, as you can tell, like, it's a really sensitive clutch, so I gotta like make sure I kind of take a little time to get used to it compared to my other cars. But it's really smooth. Red line's at about 8,000 RPM. VTEC engages about 6,800. So it is a 6-speed model, so you get that that extra gear on the freeways where it's a little bit lower, not as loud. So put in 6th gear right here. Really smooth. I mean, the car feels really smooth. Not much to complain about, and I think there isn't much body roll, and the transmission feels really good. The car is coming in about like 2,900 pounds, so you gotta keep in mind that if you're gonna wanna, push it a little bit, you gotta keep in mind that it is a front wheel FR layout car, so you gotta shift the weight, balance it accordingly. But we'll just take it around this corner right here, push it a little bit, get the VTEC kick in. Oh, it sounds nice. The SI does come with a sportier exhaust throttle note, so you guys can tell it does sound a little bit sportier OEM. So you don't have to like spend money getting an exhaust for this car. I think it sounds great OEM, and it sounds close to the like Fujitsu Legalist R. I really like that exhaust on the S2000 or even on the MR2 that they had that line. But I think stock, it sounds really good. So personally, if it was up to me, I wouldn't get a aftermarket exhaust, but get another pull right here. VTEC 8,000, And keep in mind that, guys, this car does have a shift light, so it tells you when you're hitting the rev limit, and it tells you when it shifts. So you got that shift light that flashes on. And yeah, I love the way this K-Series engine sounds. It's like music to my ear. It's so good. But I mean, I recommend this car if you guys are gonna buy like as a single car, not getting like a a sports car and a daily driver. This is like the best of both worlds. I really like it, and it hugs really well. Transmission, I think it's a McPherson strut suspension setup. So not the OG Integra with the double wishbone. This is like a little bit different, but nevertheless, it feels great. It feels solid. No third gear grind whatsoever, and I took it to 8,000 RPM in third gear. So yeah, it's good. Even in second gear, it pulls too. So slight little bit of like a rev hang, but I think it's because it's doesn't have a tune-ins on OEM map, and also this stock clutch and flywheel hasn't been changed. So if you put in like a different clutch and a different flywheel, you'll definitely get a little more quicker rev, and it's not as heavy as the OEM one. So I love the car. I really like the way it drives, and I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to drive this car as a daily driver at all. So with that being said, I mean, I strongly recommend this car, and you just keep an eye out for a third gear grind. Make sure it hasn't been heavily modified, and other than that, I mean, the car is solid. I don't see any issues with the car whatsoever at all. So hopefully you guys get some good feedback from this video, and I hope to meet some fellow FG or like FG sorry owners in this car. So yeah, I mean, I think it's really amazing, and hopefully I can get in one myself one of these days, and if I'm lucky enough, I might be able to own one. So that being said, guys, hope you guys like this video, and please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know if I should review more Honda Civic Si cars. I know the Si line and the Honda lineup is always in production, so there's new SIs. The Honda hasn't stopped production on these yet, so luckily enough for us. Anyway, this is the FG2, so hope that I talk to you guys soon, and please take it easy and subscribe. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Peace.